Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and welcome back to another daily Q&A. So today we're going to be answering a question that I've received 3 times over the last 24 hours or so, and it makes me wonder if YouTube is recommending certain videos. I've noticed this in the past with like Nero 5s. I'll get a whole bunch of orders in for them and then nothing for a couple weeks, so I don't know, it is what it is. But either way, today we're going to be talking about how often you should be testing your nitrates and phosphates within your reef tank. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about my situation here with my naked tank and coral sales and kind of what I do here in the fish room, and then kind of talk about clients and what you should be doing, depending on your type of setup. So on top of that, we're going to talk about test kits and what I'm using, and I might as well just kind of address that first, get that out of the way, because I'm going to forget if I don't. So test kits. I use Hannah Checker. I used to kind of bounce around with Red Sea and Niles and stuff like that, but because I have to be pretty precise and there's a lot going on, believe it or not, even in an empty tank, there's a lot going on down here with the 500 gallons worth of water. And yeah, I just need to make sure my nutrients are where they're supposed to be. So I use Hannah Checker for my phosphates, and I use the Hannah Checker for my nitrates. Now I was using the low range before they, I actually bought that before the new higher range Hannah Checker came out. So I did eventually use up all the reagent for the low range, and now it's just kind of sitting there doing nothing. And I went ahead and purchased the higher range. So with that said, Hannah Checkers, just got to do it. They're pretty accurate, and I don't really have any issues. You just gotta just keep buying reagent, which is just like every other test kit. It's a little bit more expensive with Hannah, but you get what you pay for. So when it comes to how often I test, this is going to be different for me than it is for most of you guys because of the coral sales and the amount of water that I send out or ship out on a daily basis. I do like to test my nitrates and phosphates every other day at a minimum. Now this has changed for me over the last few years of kind of selling coral and getting into the whole process. Back on the 125, I said once a week was pretty common, once every other week, just depending on how the tank was looking. If I noticed things were getting pale, I would go ahead and test a little bit sooner. But with the system having to be pretty spot on right now, trying to keep coral coloration, keeping dino away, which is a huge issue in this tank, especially when I'm shipping a lot of coral, it's very important for me to test and dose accordingly just to make sure the tank stays in a good range. So, yep, every other day is mandatory, at least for me. Now, for you, the average hobbyist, I would say, I don't like saying that because I feel like I'm belittling people. If you're not running a business and you're not shipping out 30 gallons of water every single week in coral, then you probably, you don't have to worry about testing every other day. But if you are just kind of Joe Schmo and you got a regular tank and you got regular fish and you're feeding normally and things are normal and you're not getting any kind of algae or dino and things just seem to be good, I think testing once per week is pretty good. I think that you can get away with that. Again, if you start seeing polyp extension not being that great, you start noticing paleness in SPS, or just corals are kind of sucked up and not happy like LPS and stuff like that, then consider testing a little bit sooner just to make sure you're not getting any dips, or vice versa, it's starting to go through the roof. So I think the average hobbyist once per week is a good standpoint, good place. I don't know, we're gonna go with that. Good place to start. And if you find that you need to make adjustments based on your tank, go from there. Now, there is no set rule for how often you need to test. It's really got to be based on what you got going on. Again, if you're like me and you're sending out a bunch of water which is being replaced with fresh salt water, keeping nutrients elevated in this tank is probably the most difficult part about running the system, or actually running the coral business in general, is keeping this tank from bottoming out and having dino. But I mean, if you just, again, your tank is normal, you're not having any issues, and you're doing your, say, your 10% weekly water change or 20% bi-weekly, and that's all you really have to worry about, and your feeding's consistent every other week, you shouldn't have any issues. Plus, that's going to save you on your reagent. But hey, if you want to go with it and you want to test every other day, it's not going to hurt anything. Just understand that when it comes to testing, you have to stick to a particular time. Now, what I like to do is test first thing in the morning, or at least mid-morning, or whatever I get done with my workout or my routine. And that way I could feed in the afternoon, and then the tank can kind of go through the whole process of breaking down the food, and nutrients can stabilize before I test again in a couple days. Now, the reason why I say that is if you are, say you're testing at night before you go to bed and you fed at 10 a.m. that day, the chances that the tank has kind of processed everything and your nutrients are actually going to read accurately are going to be pretty slim. So giving it more time, upwards of 24 hours, or even 12 to 24 hours before you test, is going to give the tank a chance to kind of adjust to the feeding and all that kind of stuff, so you don't get false readings. I've noticed before that if I feed in the morning and I test at like 6 p.m., I'm like, oh, well, that's not too bad. It's been about 8-9 hours. I still get a really high reading to the point where I'm like, well, that's definitely not correct. So just stick to a time and make sure you're not feeding anywhere around it, or at least not before. You could, of course, feed right after you test. But yeah, so that's my recommendations when it comes to that. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else. Same thing with my clients. When I had clients before things got really busy here, I just had them test once per week, or I would just do it when I went there for my every other week maintenance, depending on the setup. So that's about it, guys. I appreciate the questions. If you have any more and you want to be part of this series, feel free to put that stuff in the comment section. Try to drag the video out as long as I could so you guys can get some more content. I know you guys hate that the videos are only like 3 to 4 minutes long, but when it's questions like this, maybe in the future I'll do multiple questions so I can extend this stuff out. And by the way, my video I did last week where I was saying that, hey, I got to extend this video out to 10 minutes so I can get paid, that was a joke. Yeah, I make money on YouTube, but it's not enough to, I mean, it pays for my car. Okay, so it's not enough to, you know, really drag out videos and be a dickhead about that stuff. I was just joking. You guys know I'm really sarcastic, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to that. And by the way, if you want to support the channel, head over to FishOfHex.com, buy my stuff. I got some pretty cool keychains. You guys don't like them. You guys are giving me shit about that, but I lost like 60 subs after I posted that keychain. All right, well, anyways, guys, I'll see you later. Peace.